Yeah. Hey, folks. I guess you are again. Thanks for joining, folks. Those who are joining us from around the world. Uh, we are so excited to you here. I guess it's our, I'm guessing, third or fourth stream on a regular basis because we are doing for open source. This is the open source season is going on. And again, I always say open source for everyone. I guess one of my friend is here. Hi, Sanskriti. Thanks for joining. And yeah, so more or less, thanks for joining, folks. Today we will talk about again about open source. Yeah, that's what our in general community does, and that's what we are trying to do for you folks. Those who are new to open source, telling you about what is in general open source, telling you about the open source projects that we are bringing on. On the last stream, we have Cavalier with us. Basically, he shared about the DevOps tooling kind of thing around side by side how to you can start with on a different projects through maybe cloud native side. So yeah, and yeah, thanks Harsh again. Thanks for joining. I loving your wife. Thanks. Yeah, it feels fresh in every episode. Thanks for joining. Yeah, and again, do take a screenshot. Do share your learnings. So if you have any learnings through the whole session, tag the speakers. We will love to you can say repost or retweet kind of thing to you. But lot of chatter from my side, obviously. So I can say on an open source term, we have someone's that what I can call legend, right? So why in a more terms, everyone, if I using API to a testing toolkit, everyone say, yeah, we know Postman. Like, but if I will say there's a product who is basically open source like Postman, but doing better than Postman, I can bet on that. Cool. So we have none other than Liyas Thomas, and by the way, he's a CEO at Hoppscotch, and I'm guessing he's a founder also too. So hey, Liyas, how are you? How everything's going on? Yeah.
Hi Karthik, thanks for having me. It's so great to be here. Hi everyone.
Yeah, hi Elias. Thanks for joining. It's a great pleasure for us to join, like to see you here to basically talk about open source, talk about your project, and we are so excited to have you here. Yeah, Akshat. Thanks for joining, Akshat. Thank you. Yeah. So we didn't take much time, but I can start. I did this thing with every speaker who will join for the stream. What's your definition about open source? So yeah, is there any take from your side? Yeah.
Okay, so that's a tricky question considering that the entire world open source essentially means a broader community and the way we essentially perceive software as a system. So for me, essentially, open source is a philosophy. So a philosophy in the terms, there exists like two kinds of software. One is open source and the other is proprietary software. And always the requirement for an open, a transparent, or a philosophical remix to a traditional way of implementing software. That is what open source is to me personally. So it should be open, it should be transparent, and it should be easier for everyone to get started with. That's what open source truly is.
Yeah, and for every time I say my term because recently, like the last few years, I got interacted with the hip hop basically, and that's what I like. One thing about that thing, like we are representing that part, obviously. So just giving you on that thing, like for me, open source is like a culture. You're a part of open source culture. You are part of that community at the end of the day, and you're representing it in some other way. So yeah, the things like that, like if you are representing a local community, do represent in a more better way. If you're part of any community, do in that way for sure. Yeah, thanks Vinayak for joining. Yeah, thanks for joining. Yeah, so let's get started with it. Maybe if you can share your screen, start about the project, and at the end maybe we can brainstorm a lot of Q&A kind of thing, and simultaneously we have a kind of a discussion around hopscotch too. Yeah,
Yep. Hold on a second.
sure. Till then, everyone who is joining us, if there's any doubt regarding anything, please drop down in the chat section. We will take as a Q&A and we will love to have it. Let me add this thing to the stage. Yeah, I guess it's your turn. I guess, Lias, you can start with it, and anything you want to share about anything, you can go for it. I right now going for backstage, but I will join you soon. But yeah, I will with you. Do not take tension around that. Yeah.
Awesome, cool. Thank you for that warm introduction. And okay, so basically, I want to talk a lot about Hoppscotch and what we essentially do in the company and all. But first, let me give an introduction about myself first. So yeah, I'm the founder and CEO of Hoppscotch, and what Hoppscotch you may ask. So Hoppscotch is essentially an open source API testing platform. So the simplest definition would be it's actually an open source alternative to Postman or Insomnia or any other open source tools that you can think of. I basically started the project back in 2019 when I personally had I got frustrated with all the existing tools, including Postman, and that's how the entire Hopscotch project came into being. It's almost 3 years since I started working on the project, and as of now we are a team of 13 engineers. We do have an intern from your same college, Sanskriti, who is actually active in the chat. I do not have the permission to enter into chat, so I believe Sanskriti can help me out here. So if I show any links or any discussion thread, she can maybe step into the chat to help with the chat. Okay, cool. Okay, so today I want to talk about how we can learn more about APIs in general, and especially being an open source contributor, how you can make your mark into the open source community, into the open source world, and especially in the software side of things of open source by making a contribution to Hopscotch project. So, as I said, I'm pretty sure you might have heard of at least an API testing tool. So, most probably you might have heard of Postman, and essentially it's a tool which allow users, especially developers, to test, document, then monitor, share APIs within their teammates, and collaborative in real time. That's essentially what every such API developer tools does. So what Hopscotch does is, well, think of it as a philosophy. So again, I'm circling back to the open source philosophy that I personally withhold. When we have a piece of software in the market, the the baseline is you get what they serve, and essentially being an open source contributor, it's up to the enterprise, it's up to the company to decide what features it needs to double down on, what needs to go to the production, what needs to be served for the good of community and all. But i I always believe that there should be options available for developers. And I know it for a fact that options and choices always make confusions. And when it comes to software, it's essentially like whether it's a paid tool or a free tool, is it a proprietary service, is it a open source service? There are like thousands of options when you choose between software in general. And when I found myself back in 2019 in a situation where I have to choose between an open source alternative to Postman and a property service like Postman, I came to a conclusion that it would have been so much cooler if I could, spin up something alternative to this and change a bit of internal and what's happening under the hood, so that it will be much easier for everyone to get started with. So this is the current, I mean, I hope everyone can see my screen. And essentially this is the current version of Hopscotch. You can uh, you can visit Hoppscotch.io to get to the Hoppscotch cloud instance, which is essentially a managed web app by us. We do have multiple variants to the same application. The one you can essentially see from here, I mean, I love dark mode. Let me just quickly switch to dark mode for the ease of eyes. Anyways, the one that you can see is Hoppscotch Cloud, that you can access from Hoppscotch.io. And the source code for the cloud, the open code, is essentially in our GitHub repository. So go to github.com/hopscotch, which is our GitHub organization, /hopscotch to visit to our mono repo. So this repository basically holds all the source code to the open core of Hoppscotch project. And just as I mentioned, Hoppscotch essentially has three projects. One is Hoppscotch Cloud that you can access from Hoppscotch.io. Then we have Hoppscotch Community Edition, something any indie developers or small scale companies, businesses can fork from our code repository and spin their own version of Hoppscotch from our documentation. So we have docs.hoppscotch.io, which describes a lot of features and guides, tutorials, and everything related to Hopscotch. And I want you guys to check out the self-hosting guide. So this is basically the URL docs.hopscotch.io, and this gate, I think this gate would be the first step towards making a contribution to Hopscotch, because this documentation, this gate explains how you can install instance of Hopscotch on your local machine. So essentially, just like all the other softwares, this too gonna require some prerequisites as well as some install and building steps before having a locally running instance. So I want you guys to take a look into this prerequisites documentation. I'm pretty sure most of you guys know what every section of this documentation means. But if you stumble upon anything which doesn't make any sense, the best way to ask for help or to figure out if anybody else asked for the same issue before you is our issues tab. So essentially, go to our issues tab on our GitHub repo, from where you can find. I think there are like almost 1,000 issues that has been closed, and most of them were either feature requests or bug reports. So just search for your. I mean, if you stumble upon anything that doesn't make any sense, just search for the term or the bug or the issue on the search filter input here, and you might get the answer. And even if that doesn't solve what you were looking for, I mean, if it doesn't help you to fix the issue or fix the local instance, then the best way to get help is essentially from our instant messaging channels like Discord or Telegram. So both links are essentially in our GitHub repository itself. uh, I can maybe look into share these links by end of this call on the chat, but you can find those links from our GitHub repository. So we have Discord channel as well as a Telegram group for public conversation regarding Hopscotch. Okay, guys. So these are the prerequisites. Like I just want to set the stage of what I'm gonna talk and what I hope to deliver, and if possible, just want to give a gist of what open source can do, and especially from a project that came from India, what Hopscotch is and where we stand. Okay, so yeah, the first step is to get a local instance of Hopscotch in your in your local machine, and the documentation would be very helpful. So you might ask, Hopscotch being a really huge platform with over 200 plus contributors, 55,000 plus GitHub stars, and almost 100,000 monthly active users. How how would be like how huge it would be to at least make a contribution to the source code? I get what your concerns are, and I'm gonna describe which all ways you can contribute to Hopscotch, and most of them are essentially not code contribution. So I'm going to talk about a few ways how you can contribute to Hopscotch. Most of them requires does not require you to code. Instead, your ability to convey or communicate to a bunch of groups of people would be sufficient for this. So we actually have a discussion page in our repository itself, so you can just visit our GitHub repository, and under the discussion tab, there is a thread, a discussion thread pinned, which reads "Celebrate Open Source with Hacktoberfest." So this discussion thread essentially describes what all ways you can contribute to Hoppscotch, and there are some bullet points which help you to how you can contribute to Hoppscotch. So I'm gonna go over each of them, and I'm gonna give maybe few minutes to answer any specific queries that you guys have by the end of the meet. And always, okay, so I'm actually switched to my browser tab on the repository. I can't see the search as of now. Feel free to ask your questions by end of the meet. I'm gonna give probably 10 to 15 minutes to answer any specific questions that you have. Anyways, so I'm just gonna get started with ways on how you can contribute to Hopscotch. So I'm pretty sure there are people in the meet who is essentially participating in Hacktoberfest for the first time. I used to be in the same place where you guys are at, like 3 or 4 years ago, which is the exact first time I literally made a contribution to the entire open source community for the first time. So I think I made the first contribution in 2018 or so. So just I believe I was studying engineering final year, and I just fell in love with softwares. I I literally came to know there exists an open source community, like bunch of software and open source enthusiasts who share source code for the greater good for the world. And in 2018, I essentially made a single contribution to a Vue.js project, which literally changed just single line. So I believe it was a typo, even though it's not encouraged, and it's not preferred way to contribute to a larger organization. I I came to the conclusion that by that end of the day, I knew that little contribution, even if it was a typo, gonna help someone who's gonna read that documentation, and it it brought me a lot of joy and pleasure to admit that fact that I made a contribution to a project which gonna help lots of developers or lots of users, like millions or multi-millions of users going forward. I'm still proud of my first ever Hacktoberfest contribution. I used it to contribute to many other projects previously, but as of now, apparently just busy with working with Hoppscotch a lot. So yeah, I just wanna mention that it doesn't matter the depth of your contribution, even if it's just a single line of change. If it's gonna help a group of users of that particular project, or whatever you're contributing to, then it's a valid contribution, and you should be proud of yourself to contribute to that project in the first place. So yeah, I'm gonna straight into the ways you can contribute to Hopscotch. Well, first of all, it's an open source project. It's a project that deals with testing APIs, documenting them, sharing them with your teammates, testing them with assertions and all. I mean, there's like lots of features within the Hopscotch platform as a whole, and the best way to make a significant contribution to the project, to the entire ecosystem, is to implement a feature which has been either coined by the community itself. Like I believe more than 80% of all the features exist in the open community edition as well as the cloud edition. I believe more than 80% of those features are either directly contributed by the community, or you know we personally implemented them with the help of the community. So being the open source community as the backbone of the project, the best way to start contributing to Hoppscotch in a significant way is to contribute to a feature that has not been implemented. So again, how you can do that? Well, essentially, we have a button here which redirects users to our issues tab itself, but with the filter set as label, which is set to feature. So essentially, this page lists out all the features either asked by our community members or our end users, and they put the effort into creating an issue ticket so that they can track that particular issue, and they will get notified once it's implemented, once it's implemented either by the community or by the team itself. So the first way is to implement a feature. This is a this is a long list, like, I get it. This spans around, like, I don't know, maybe 50 or even 60 issues. But the fact is, most of them are beginner friendly, or friend and only ones, or some feature requests might take a day, or I mean, maybe a maximum of 1 week to implement. That's the maximum effort anybody who's looking forward to implement a feature have to spend on implementing a new feature. So this is the place. Go to issues tab, and under the issues tab, filter the issues with the label feature, and these are the most significant contribution that you can make for the Hoppscotch open source ecosystem. So that's the first place where you can start contributing to it. But again, that's going to require some sort of programming expertise and all. But I just want to list out the tech stack that we use internally at Hoppscotch, so that it will make much more sense for those who are looking forward to contribute to it. So on the front end, we have Vue.js, and in the latest version of Vue, so essentially Vue 3, and most of the source code is actually written in TypeScript itself. But again, there are certain places where we still use JavaScript. So as far as the front end is considered, it's just Vue.js, TypeScript with a bit of JavaScript, and for the styling purposes and all, we essentially use Tailwind CSS. So it's a new tool. It's a new platform in the market. So that's basically the front end stack. So any feature that involves just tackling on the front end, this is it. This is the go-to tech stack that you're gonna have. And if any feature that's gonna require implementing some sort of back-end implementation or APIs, we have Nest.js as our backend core, and we use Prisma for the database CRM. We have a Postgres instance of uh, Postgres requirement, like a Postgres DB requirement for the backend to function as well. So this is essentially the tech stack as far as the backend is considered. But more about this on the prerequisites page on the documentation. So do check this out. And as always, visit our Discord channel or Telegram group if you have any sort of doubts to understand the code base. All right. So moving on to the next uh, place where we can contribute. Again, implementing the feature has the same equal significance as fixing a bug. So this would be the second place if you are interested. Like, I'm totally a front end guy. I love to design. I love to implement new features, and I know there exists another group of software enthusiasts who really love fixing bugs, who really love writing text, and essentially making sure everything works perfectly. So this particular CTA is for them. If you would love to fix any existing non bugs, you can again visit our issues tab, and under the issues tab, filter the issues which has the label bug. So again, you can find that exact link from our discussion thread here, or it would be just matter of clicking on a ticket with bug that gonna filter all the issues that has the label bug. So again, the platform is not perfect. Like, we are writing a piece of software, and just being a software essentially means it has some bugs. The secret is we haven't just discovered it now. So essentially, these are the non-bugs, and most of them essentially needs testing. So the best way to pick up any of these particular issues is to get started with Hoppscotch. Like, try using it as your daily drivers. Try implementing a current workflow that you used to do with either Postman or Insomnia or some other tools in Hoppscotch, and just let us know, or feel free to implement any places where you believe the UX could have been much better, or being a developer you expected something else rather than the current flow that we have at this point. So these are the issues with the label bug, which the community or the internal team thinks are not performing as we expected. And again, most of them are actually beginner friendly. Most of them are front end only bugs. So, uh, you know, most probably it's gonna take a day or two to inspect the bug, or get into a conclusion like what could possibly be the issue here, and communicate with our core team. So the preferred way to pick up any such issues is that, first of all, just start a discussion either on the issues thread itself, or you can essentially use the discussion tab here and start a conversation on how to approach that particular ticket, whether it's a feature implementation or a bug fix. Just let the core team know you are interested in working on this, and you have some sort of ideas on how to fix it, how to reproduce that particular behavior, and how to essentially offer a better way to some sort of system that we have at this point. So start a conversation either on the issue ticket itself, or create a new discussion thread to communicate with the core team. And when you do that, what could possibly happen is someone from the core team, or myself, I would uh, let you guys know what could have been went wrong, what can be improved, and we're gonna share some ideas on how we can approach this particular issue, and find the best fit on solving them. So that would be the preferred way to contribute to not just Hoppscotch, but for any open source projects in general. And that's gonna always help the core team to allocate their resources in an efficient way. I mean, by the end of the day, we don't want two or more guys working on a single bug fix, or a feature implementation, right? Like, we could just diversify the pool of tickets that we have at this point. So that's basically one good way to contribute to not just Hoppscotch, but all other open source repositories in general. So yeah, with fixing bugs, that would be the second most highest significant contribution that you guys can make. And even if you think that's going to require a lot of programming expertise and all, well, we got a slower, or a lighter version of fixing a bug, which is to write test. So essentially, softwares in general, and especially in open source community, they don't write test. I mean, there are like many reasons for this. Like, in the inception or the early days, softwares will be like mostly focused on shipping the stuff. Like, on the early days, their entire goal is to get this thing out in the wild. And I mean, not just that, like, many of the reasons why most of the software does not include test. But at Hoppscotch, I'm pretty sure we do not have 100% test coverage, but we would love to reach to a substantial level of test coverage by end of this year. So we are putting a lot of effort into writing tests. If you could see our latest commits or latest releases and all, you can essentially see that all the newest features are 100% covered with test. So we have a testing framework in place, and as far as the front end components are considered, we use white test, which is essentially a testing framework built by the Vue.js community members, the core team, to implement test in Vue.js websites or applications. So for the front end, for the most of the front end part, we use white test, and for the functional test we use jest. So essentially, if you are a guy who would love to write tests and make sure the application perform as implemented, this would be this would be another opportunity to contribute to the stability of the project. So writing tests, that's basically it. All right, so that's basically it, guys. Like, these are the three main ways you can contribute to the source code. And when I mean the source code, it's gonna affect a lot of users. Like, you know, as of today, we have almost 100,000 monthly active users throughout the all three platforms that we have at this point. So the open source community edition, the cloud edition, when we do have an enterprise edition as well. So if you make a contribution either by implementing a feature or fixing a bug or writing a test, that's gonna affect. I mean, once it promoted to the production deployment, that's gonna affect a lot of users, and that's gonna benefit a lot of users, and most of them are essentially developers. Hopscotch being a developer too. So these are the ways how you can make significant contribution to the platform, to the project, by writing code, implementing features, fixing bugs, and writing tests. I wanna put same emphasis, same relevance to the next 3 to 4 ways you can contribute to Hopscotch without even writing a single line of code. And essentially, these are, I believe, the easiest way to uh, make a contribution to the project, not just Hopscotch, but any projects in general. And I personally find it's more of rewarding on a personal level. Like, when I used to study engineering, and when I started contributing to open source project, even before contributing to Hacktoberfest season, I find it the the practice of writing blogs. Especially, I used to keep a personal blog myself, where I would share all the learnings that I personally learned while continuing my programming journey. So if I came to know about a new platform or a new framework, I would start a basic project in it. I would learn the basic stuff. I would read the documentation, and by that end of that day, I will write a blog article on my personal portfolio, uh, so that I thought I would remember, or I can even go back to this particular article in a future date, so that I can consider it as a reference to what I have learned. So I recommend everyone who is uh, you know is barely even interested in open source projects in general, or who is starting to learn programming or computer science, like any software assets in general. Keep a journal, keep a personal blog. I mean, I personally use Devdo too, as well as Hashnode. Our organization too has a Devdo 2 profile, as well as a Hashnode profile, where we write regular blogs on things happening at Hoppscotch, our newer releases, change logs, and all. So This would even act as a contribution to a open source project just by contributing to the documentation of the platform. So, as I mentioned earlier, we have a documentation site hosted on docs.hoppscotch.io, and essentially, its source code is also open sourced under under our organization. So it would be github.com/hopscotch/docs, and this is essentially the source code to our documentation site. So if you get to use Hoppscotch as a daily driver in your workflow, or if you just wanna learn more about Hoppscotch, this would be the best place. And while learning more about Hoppscotch, if you find something can be improved on the documentation side of things, uh, let's say for example you think you want to improve something on the quick start page, and essentially this is the quick start gate that we have. It helps the user to jump start with Hoppscotch either on the cloud or the self-hosted edition, and especially the enterprise or the community edition, or the CLI that we have at this point. So if you think it would be much better if there was a CTE or a change in the way we describe something, this is the next repository that I personally want you guys to remember: Hoppscotch/docs, where we have all our documentation stored. So the steps are same. We have a initial installation prerequisite. So essentially, this is the local development environment gate will help you to have a local instance of documentation in your local machine, and you can start contributing to it like in a jiffy. So it's essentially a bunch of static HTML pages once you compile it. So yeah, I mean, just go through the documentation. uh, Let us know if anything can be improved. If you think you can improve a specific page or a section, feel free to open the pull request to our documentation repository as well. That's basically one way to contribute to Hopscotch is through writing documentation. And if you are in the discussion page, there is CTA, like direct links to our repository as well as the documentation site. So visit this discussion thread, which is pinned in the discussions tab under the main repository. All right, guys. Okay, so moving to the next way, which is something that I already mentioned. I used to write personal blogs from findings that I learned while building Hopscotch, and not just Hopscotch. Essentially, Hopscotch would be the, I don't know, maybe 11th, or even, I mean, I built a dozen more open source or tiny similar utilities in my earlier days when contributing to Hopscotch, and Hopscotch ended up being the 13th or the 12th one. And I would write regular blogs on the findings that I learn, or any frameworks, any tools, any code snippets that I think can be used as a reference for myself in the future. I would just create a blog about it. I would share the freebies with my open source community, so that it's gonna help them to learn that in an easier way. So writing a article, writing a blog post about Hopscotch, how it can help you, test APIs, or maybe your use case might be completely different from one to another. So you can essentially use Hopscotch to test APIs, and for the same guys or someone else, you can use Hopscotch to maybe just share a particular API request setup with someone in your team. You can use that. I mean, there are like many ways you can leverage Hopscotch to your own use cases. And if you find a particular use case interesting enough to be documented as a blog post or an article, consider writing a blog post about Hopscotch on your personal blogging platform. Any platform is preferred, like Dev.to, Hashnode. I'm pretty sure they're like Devrand. I mean, there are essentially like many lots of developer related blogging platforms are there. So any platform work, just keep a consider it as a journal of the learnings that you find. That's all. So if you think any use case of Hoppscotch is interesting enough to be documented, and thereby help uh, many other people, just consider writing a blog post as well. This too is one way to contribute to the project. Like if you get the word out, lots of people gonna hear about it. Lots of people gonna they're gonna get the benefits out of it, and it's essentially gonna share it within their circle, and it gonna help a lot of guys. That's basically it. So consider writing a blog post about Hoppscotch. That's one way. And what if you want to showcase hopscotch to a much more audience? Like if you have a YouTube channel or a broadcasting platform, or if you have some sort of medium in place, if you believe you have a voice in a segment of users, it can be a podcast, it can be a YouTube channel, it can be a Twitter thread, like whatever works. If you think you can accomplish some sort of workflows by using hopscotch, consider making a tutorial. So write, record, or make podcast, or do what feels suits to you most, and consider making a tutorial so that it can be essentially used as a reference for anybody else who is trying to achieve the same thing. We personally do this a lot in our team. So when we launched our self-hosting capabilities, we wrote a tutorial on how to self-host Hopscotch, a detailed one, like an elaborative one, written by Sanskriti, I believe, and it showcased the ways you can self-host Hopscotch, what are the prerequisites, what are the environment variables involved, a lot of things. And I'm pretty sure that essentially helped thousands and thousands of users who came eager to self-hosting, and they might get to know about the route of outline on how to self-host from the documentation. But an elaborative, a descriptive tutorial will definitely help everyone looking forward to implement a workflow in the HubSpot. So this is definitely another way on how you can contribute to the platform, the project. All right, so this comes the last ways, and consider the list of things that I already mentioned. It's not a final list. Like there are obviously lots of other ways you can contribute to not just Hopscotch, but any open source projects in general. I believe every project is some sort of. I mean, every project has some sort of difference when you compare one among them, and at Hopscotch, we personally believe that the software or the product should be accessible for everyone. And we intentionally made it compulsory for everyone who's using Hopscotch to make the platform available in their own languages. So we call it localization, the internationalization. We have a module within the source code which help users to switch the language of the platform to their own liking. Like we currently support, I believe, around 25 plus languages throughout the world. So essentially, if you're from uh, an European region, and if you wanted to access Hopscotch in French or in Spanish, or what if you're from Asia Pacific regions, and if you wanted the platform in Chinese or Japanese, or Brazilian, African, any languages that we have in Spain. And the best thing is all the language support we have at Hopscotch are essentially completely 100%. 10% contributed by the community itself. We kickstarted the localization and efforts back in 2020, I believe, and we got more than 50 plus pull requests from and from from throughout the continents and all, asking for new language support, contributing to the existing ones and all. So this would be the most easiest way on how you can contribute to an open source project which actually has localization in place. So I believe many projects do. Hoppscotch definitely has this. So consider the gate. So again, the direct link to the gate on how you can make it contribution to the languages, to the localities we have at the platform can be found from the discussion thread or directly from our uh, the monorepo, the repository in our GitHub itself. It definitely has a descriptive ways on how you can essentially make the change, make the updates, the changes, and create a pull request. Like this guide explains everything in like layman terms. So this would be the guide to uh, look up if you are interested in contributing to the language support we offer. I mean, that's basically it, guys. Like, I'm just so happy to talk about Hoppscotch in general. Uh, I mean, I just want to convey how seriously we consider the open source communities, how they became the backbone of the product. The fleet of products that we have at this point literally came out from a 2 hour window where I personally built the first iteration of Hoppscotch back in 2019. And from the day two onwards, I mean, the day two, when I woke up the next morning, I had more than, I don't know, a dozen plus pull requests ready for review. And the entire Hoppscotch community is like immensely thankful to all the contributions, all the help we earned from the open source community. So I just wanna thank you for everyone who has already contributed and who is looking forward to make their own contribution to the project and the season, the Hacktoberfest season. It's not just about hopscotch, guys. Like it's about making a mark that you can leave for the generations and millions of others who gonna benefit from your tiny leafy change. So essentially embrace the open source philosophy, embrace the aspect of open source projects, and take a look at our GitHub repository and especially this discussion thread for more info on how you can contribute to Hopscotch. I'm gonna stop presenting my screen and take a look at the chats. I couldn't find this. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's an exhaustive list. I can maybe look at the list, but Karthik, do help me out. Like, can you? I mean,
Sure,
can
yeah.
you any questions that I need to solve?
There is a lot of you can say some of the comments around it. So I will start one by one if I will say. So when I
Yeah, sure.
actually sharing, I first came across Hopscotch solving a secure cybersecurity challenge. It was a very
Mhm.
easy to work with for someone like me who's totally new. So yeah, I guess open source tool helping a lot of people around the world. So yeah, glad to know that. Glad to know that. And yeah, I guess Harsh is saying TVH I came to know about Hopscotch through Sanskriti. So yeah, so that's nice. That's nice. And yeah, Sanskriti added some more pointers. You can say spotlight search at Hopscotch makes navigation make an accessibility features pretty easy. So yeah, for sure, definitely around it. And yeah, when you're sharing around the hopscotch on the cloud part, like that's what the basic motto, like as what Sanskrit is saying to us, saying to the same thing. Yeah. And yeah, by the way, Harsh basically like the translate one actually, like they can contribute to different languages around it and they can contribute to it. So I guess we can come up with something doc related for Hindi, maybe related to something like that. But yeah.
Yeah,
And yeah, at the end, yeah, it's really inspiring to see such great open source projects. So yeah, thanks for maintaining for that. Yeah. we are seeing a lot of things happening in open source, and kudos to the whole team of Hoppscotch, basically maintaining the community side by side, working on the product and doing on the feedback loop with the community. It's a really difficult task. I can understand as a community manager, where we are basically doing that same, but kudos to the whole team. Um, yeah, I guess let's maybe do some minor questioning around the whole thing. So, what makes you, Lias, makes you think like makes you open source the hopscotch, if I will say, like maybe you can do it flow, you can say in a more proprietary software, right? Like how I guess kind of
Yep.
Postman is doing in that way. Like what makes you think like or like let's go for open source? Like what makes you like motivate that? Like let's do open source kind of thing. Yeah.
See, Karthik, it's actually happened by mistake. So being being in the summer for a year in college, and essentially, I was desperately trying to get a portfolio of personal projects that I can showcase by the end of the year, so that some multinational company would see the portfolio of the projects that I built, and I might end up being a software engineer. That was exactly, like, to be honest, that was the exact thought that I personally had when I literally start contributing to open source. I wanted a bunch of projects that I can personally showcase. These are the things that I built myself. I know the tech stack. I learned it all by myself. I'm a self-learned learner, even though I'm a computer science engineering graduate. Everything that I build, or everything that you can essentially see as a contribution from my end, I learned it myself. And if you ask me, the reason why Hoppscotch became an open source project, well, we can when the project went off, like it went viral after a few days, when I launched it as an open source project in GitHub repository. So what it actually happened is, we can either end up being a property service or as an alternative to an existing tool, but that's gonna confuse the hell out of the users. Like, users would end up getting two platforms which share the same synergy, same way of implementation, the same thing. Like, it's essentially two apps with different names. And I personally didn't want that. I want something which differentiate Hopscotch from the rest of us. And frankly enough, Hopscotch is essentially not the first alternative to Postman. There exists, I don't know, maybe 20 plus other alternatives. But here's the thing: we started. I mean, I personally started it as a web app. Back then, Insomnia was the go-to alternative to Postman, and it was built on Electron, and Postman was built on Electron, and everything was built on Electron. And I had a PC which was like 10-year-old, poor one. I couldn't afford to run another Chrome instance, and I wanted something lightweight. I want something essential. I don't wanted a blotted one. I want to get the stuff done. That's basically it. And the only way to achieve, or to at least make sure, I mean, I just want to make sure that I'm building the right thing, is to get constant feedback from our end user. And to and open source is the best way to get constant feedback from your end users. And if you're a developer tool, it's just a no-brainer to go as a proprietary service. That's basically. I didn't put a lot of thought in it. It's just came.
No, but like really to say, really see great on that part. Like people have a around that mindset about the open source. Even though if you will say open source waves came back, you can say 1 or 2 years, in around 1 or 2 years, you can say. But you have a mindset around that point, like how the power of the how we can use power of open source in that way. I guess there's one question from Harsh, I'm guessing. Can you
Yeah, yeah.
please share about the time when you started, what failures you faced at the time, and how you got rid of them? Yeah.
Awesome. These are the questions that you should ask, because everyone believe if you start a project, if you just make something out there, then it's done. Like, there used to be a saying: if you build the project, audience will come. No, it doesn't. Like, I believe the first failure, or sort of setback that I personally face, well, being a software, I would say the technical difficulties, the technical challenges are definitely the setbacks that you can expect from any sort of software. Like if you're building a software, there will be some technical difficulties. And being an open source API testing platform, I mean, it's a nice word. Like it seems it's a nice tool and all, but under the hood, we need to take care of lot of things. Like if you have an API in the public, it essentially talks to the backend infra of your project, of your software project. And backend being a very sensitive data, we are dealing with authorization code, tokens, private APIs, and whatnot. So for us personally, while building Hoppscotch, the technical difficulties to cover up, to standardize the process, the workflows, was the highest point of setback we faced. But guess what? We solved every one of them one by one. We can't do it in a month. You can't do those. You can't fix every issues in a year. But gradually, you will came to a stability pace. I mean, just to pick up that pace to fix everything, and it's gonna work out. I can actually give one more suggestion on the setback or a failure that I personally faced. Hoppscotch is essentially the 13th project. Like, I built a dozen and another set of projects like a markdown tool, like color picker, a note taking app, a to do app, like a dozen another projects. And guess what? All of them collaboratively had 55 stars. And Hope's Coach, just one project got 55,000 plus Grave stars. So if I was to stop at that third project, being a project with like 3 stars or 5 users, 10 users, I would never go to this space where I would have built Hope's Coach in the first place. So being consistent in what you build is essentially, I mean, so it's essentially not a failure, but failing to being consistent would be the highest failure of all. That's basically it, Harsh. I hope it answers your doubts, but feel free to let me know via Twitter or any platform.
Yeah, Harsh is saying potato PC feels relatable.
I mean, come on. I had a PC with 2 gigs of RAM, an Intel Pentium or also processor. It only supported one map at a time. We know it's a multi-threaded system, but guess what? I can't open 2 tabs of Chrome. This used to be the case when I started Hoppscotch. So I know, like, that's the thing, right? When I built out the MVP of Hopscotch, I came to realize that there exist like thousands of others who had the same issue that I was personally felt. And they were like they were just left with alternatives like Postman and all, and there were no alternative, like a good alternative to it, which why I ended up creating one. So that's basically like all the great products come from your personal frustration with the existing product. Like the Airbnb founder said this. I don't know. Uber. I don't know. Someone said this. Yeah.
But yeah, the major focus behind in general, many people thinks about will it be sustainable to go you can say till end with the open source thing as a company, you can say. Like if I talk about open source in general way, what do you think maybe like will it go till end, like I can do it forever like with Hopscotch, or maybe in a some moment like what maximum companies does, what they does, the major product will be proprietary and there's some part they open source that just to create a hype kind of with the open source thing. And so, like, what your thought process? Will you do it like forever with open source, or if you're thinking on that part, like, then why people are not doing in that way? What's your thought process around it? Yeah.
That's again an interesting question. So whenever you start a project, you will not. I'm pretty sure you won't have any thought process on what would be the 5 year plan of this project. Like what would be the, I mean, where our product would be sitting after 10 years, after 25 years. Like you won't have those things in place when you initiate the effort. And the best way to figure out where our product would be standing after 5 years, 10 years, is to essentially learn things as you grow, and just keep systems in place. Like just I mean, I was personally keen on one thing. We will vote on any feature that goes into Hoppscotch. And if a feature set comes into place, we would ask our end users, do you want feature A, or do you want feature B, or do you want feature A plus B, or do you want to remove feature A and B? And we would listen to them. We would we make them, their voices are heard, and take a decision. And by doing this over and over again, you are left with a project that our end users really want. Like no features are essentially blotted. And I mean, so that's the philosophy that I personally keep. And if you want to talk about the sustainability of the project, well, there involves lot of other things. When you talk about sustainability, for example, as of now we are a team of 13 engineers as the core team. And for them to work full time, we gonna disperse salaries and all. But here's the fun fact: when I started Hoppscotch, there were like no monetization angle to the project. Like it was just a nerd guy working on a single project like all the time. That's basically like a weekend kind of thing. That was it for me. But guess what? When GitHub offered GitHub sponsorship, it's essentially a platform which allows developers to monetize or get sponsorships, or one time or recurring donations from the community. I too signed up to it, and I ended up being one of the GitHub grant. So there was this thing called GitHub grants where they would award elites. I mean, I can't call myself elite, but specific community members or open source enthusiastic from the country. Like it actually started from India, but I'm pretty sure it's now uh, throughout the world, I believe. But I ended up being one of the 9 elites who got the GitHub grant to work on the project that they are contributing to. That too helped me to financially sustain for the first few months, or almost an year. And but again, that was just me. Like we have a team of engineers working on it. We raised a seed round to make sure the company can deliver what we deliver the best for the next 3 to 5 years, and thereby providing a monetized plan, not for indie developers or small scale businesses, but for enterprise users who are willing to pay for such softwares. Like we want to capture the market where there are companies, essentially there are two types of companies who are essentially not capable of paying for for a software like Hoppscotch or Postman. But there are certain companies, they are willing to pay for certain features if we can offer them. For example, SAML authentication, like as a single sign-in authentication, which is a go-to de facto authentication strategy all the enterprise companies use. End user, like a personal individual, does not want this thing, but we being as engineers, we can implement this and offer as a priced tier for engineers. So yeah, I mean, we have a fleet of products which we hope to monetize along the way. And the best way to make sure we are not uh, I mean, make sure we are shipping the right thing is to get constant feedback through open source aspect of the product. Yeah.
That's great point. And maybe I can do a discussion on around 1 to 2 hours for the product side, maybe. But I guess there's one
Yeah.
question from Vinayak. There's one question from Vinayak. How you see hackathon as a developer community, or like, or maybe into developer relation, if you will say around that. So yeah.
Okay, so there are, like, I believe, two sides to the entire Hacktoberfest or hackathons, or any event related to the developer community. When I started Hoppscotch, I got a friend, Andrew Bastian, who ended up being the co-founder and CTO of the company. I'm pretty sure we used to participate on all the hackathons we can do. And when I was a college student, I used to participate in Smart India Hackathon. I used to be a finalist when I was when I believe in sophomore year or second year, I believe so. So I used to participate in all the hackathons if possible. But guess what? It should not affect your academic side of things. I'm pretty sure it definitely helps you to learn lots of things, but it also involves you to put all your focus for a 48 hours or a week long period to a certain thing. Like it may be coming up with a hardware tech, it may be coming up with a software, or fixing a problem statement the hackathon guys gave. But so as I said, don't get burnt out. Hackathons always helps. It okay. So and another aspect would be, if you get your degree from a college, you're gonna be recognized, in your friend circle. These events like hackathons and other off-campus events, either virtual or in-person events, are the best way to know about what's essentially happening around the world. Like there are companies who are willing to pay for students or developers or enthusiastic who is interested in learning things. And if you want to learn a particular technology, and there are companies who are providing those technologies, they are willing to sponsor you so that you could participate in a hackathon. I also ended up being a Defolio fellowship member back in 2020, I believe. But again, I was not 21 at that point of time. Hence, the price got split up. Anyways, that's for another story. But companies like Defolio or any platform which offers hackathons are really doing wonderful things, and it's essentially the best stage for every student or every industry who want to level up their programming plus problem solving skills. Definitely, hackathons are much appreciated. Yeah,
Yeah, great. I guess Harsh is saying I'm definitely gonna use Hoppscotch for my testing my API in my upcoming hackathons for sure. Yeah.
awesome. Appreciate it, Harsh.
Uh, Great. And yeah, maybe this, even though one of the major concern, not concern, if I was, I am just to use the wrong word actually. If we are like many people just right now doing, because obviously, as you were saying before, that insomnia is in the alternative positioning, right? But it is kind of a now not in the scene, if I will say in that way. But maximum people is saying, if we compare Hopscotch with Postman, right? Apart from the open source thing, or maybe if I will say you can say the pricing thing, maybe what your
Mhm.
the take around like I'm not saying like this tool is better, this tool is best, but the my major point of view is like how as a developer, or maybe even say developer experience point of view, when we like as a in developer relation, obviously we brainstorm on the product side, like how we are making better experience for the developers, because it's a developer tool at the end of the
Yep.
day. So what your take around that, maybe on a DX point of view, what is the take your on the Hopscotch, maybe in comparison to Postman kind of thing? And this is kind of my last question, and if like maybe I can add some more question to that, but this is kind of a last question for the stream. Yeah.
Awesome, cool. Okay, so well, there are many ways on how you can approach a problem. So, if you consider the end users being developers, they are basically left with the current alternatives, either being Insomnia or HTTP Py or even Postman. We always think how we can leverage the best of all, and how we can improve the developer experience, the DX part of a certain feature or a flow, and how we can do it in a way that it won't consume that much of effort like bandwidth from our end. So consider a larger company like Postman and all. They have hundreds of engineers working on a single product. We are just a bunch of guys that you can basically fit in a round table working on a single product. And obviously the feature set parity or the depth of things all platforms offers will definitely differ from one to another. And you know most companies obviously had their own advantages. For example, Postman was there like around, I don't know, 10 plus years, and they had the first timers advantage in the market, and I'm pretty sure we can reach that by, I don't know, in 7 years, in 5 years or so. But even for the next 5 or 7 years, they're gonna be keep on building what they are, you know, decided to build, right? So if it, I don't think it's essentially uh, apples to orange comparison, but I mean, from an user's point of view, they expect some sort of features of parity. Like someone coming from Postman to Insomnia and to Hoppscotch, they expect some sort of similarity in between the apps. Like if they have a test script in place, they wanted a single import to post Hoppscotch button, and it should be a one-click migration tool. Like this is, I mean, if we can't offer that, they will search for another alternative. So in terms of features and parity, or okay, in terms of pricing, again, there are multiple variants to the same product, the Hopscotch Open Core, one being the self-hosted version. So essentially, all the features that you can find from the code repository, like team collaboration, environments, collections, unlimited number of teams, unlimited number of members that can be added, unlimited number of collections, environments, like everything as a without any restrictions. You can enjoy all this thing if you are willing to self host it on your premise. And by doing that, you would not just lift that restriction over the access to certain features, but also, I mean, if you have a bunch of collections which cross a certain storage limit, like let's say 2 GB, then there exists some limitation. But if it's running on your own premise, your own infra, then it's up to you to scale that platform, scale that architecture or infrastructure to support your own needs. If you just need 100 collections with 10 of them each, so essentially 1,000 requests, just a DigitalOcean server of 2 gigs of RAM would just do fine. All your API requirements are met. If you want to do the same thing either in Postman or any other platform, the computational and the storage cost would be really really high. For us, it's up to them to support the storage, and one another angle to think about it, these are very sensitive data. You can't trust a proprietary service handling with this kind of data, because I'm pretty sure any proprietary service can even track the mouse pointer interaction. Like if you keep your mouse pointer over the send button for 5 seconds, they can track this. Why isn't this guy clicking on send? Come on, the button is right here. Come on, click on it. They can alert their logging mechanism in place, and make it forcefully. I mean, they can design everything to just to click on that send button. Like they can do that. But with Hopscotch, there is no lock-ins. Like it's essentially open out there. You can either use it or not use it. You can either host it or use our cloud version. You can either sign up for the enterprise if you want certain enterprisey features, or just use the bare minimum, which is a free for everyone version. So yeah, as I mentioned, it's the flexibility of the software what determines the pricing, what determines the DX, what determines everything. So yeah, that's basically it, guys.
Thanks, Lias, for the descriptive part around that. That's the main focus, maybe basically why people are so intrigued about hopscotch recently. And yeah, I guess. By the way, all the links are in the description, folks. You can search around hopscotch, go to the website of hopscotch, and I will prefer go to the repo, start of the repo, use it, poke it, contribute to it. We will love to have more contributions from our side if we can provide any contributions to hopscotch as a community. Go for it, folks. And I guess we are in the end stream. And again, I will just say to thank you so much, Lias, for taking out your time, sharing some great insights about hopscotch, open source in general. But thanks for accepting our invitation and join us for this. Yeah.
Thank you, the opening community. I am. Thank you for having me. This felt so great. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, see you soon, folks. We will see you on the tomorrow on next stream, which is with Michael Yon, who is basically founder of secondstate.io, which basically we talk about WebAssembly around it, and we will see you around more of that. But yeah, thanks Harsh for that. I am hoping you will see such more faces around again and again. But yeah, go for it. And thanks, folks, for joining. And thanks, Lias, for joining. Yeah,
Thank you all. Bye.
great.
Take care. Bye.
Yeah, bye everyone. Take care. And cool. I'm ending the stream in soon. But everyone who has joined us, thanks for joining. And we will see you in the next coming day. So yeah, bye bye. See you, folks. And I will take everyone on the backstage and so do that fun. And thanks for joining. And I hope so for the next stream you will there, and I will not talk too much, so do not take tension. Go and search about Hoppscotch. If you like anything, please tag. You can say take a screenshot around the whole session. If you can share anything, tag me, tag Liyas, tag OpInCo Community, tag Hoppscotch, and share your learnings throughout the whole thing. What is the best thing that you can form from your end? And yeah, I hope so there's no more question also from our side. And just a final thing for our community, so we are also we are our organization also on GitHub. So if you want to contribute in some small project that we are built off, we will love to have a contribution from your side too. And yeah, I didn't take much time, but thanks folks for joining. See you soon. And yeah, tada, bye bye, and